Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channel. Welcome to those of you who are new. Welcome back to those of you seasoned veterans of what we do around here. What we do around here is bring about a cavalcade of wrestling related topics, both in the present day and in the old school. Obviously, old school is what I'm preferring, but we're doing the NXT run through from the beginning to now. We are in November of 2011 here, and November 2nd, 2011, I am up through sometime in 2012 here. Actually, looking forward to getting back to the 2014 start on the network that I really did enjoy. I enjoyed that run for a couple of years there for a little while, right before they called up people like Bayley and Charlotte Flair and all of that. Just a really interesting time to be a wrestling fan at the time. I think the current NXT is a weakened product, but current wrestling over even where we were 6 or 7 years ago is certainly weaker. This particular edition, though, we kind of see Derek Bateman kind of do the flashback with Maxine as his um, lady, and he does the get down on one knee bit with her, and JTG brings them out. Kind of a partnership there, kind of trying to get things through. Does the get on one knee bit. Meanwhile, out comes Titus O'Neil, Percy Watson, and AJ Lee. They basically have been doing a multi-person program for a while. Basic stuff here. Titus is. They make fun of uh, Maxine, calling her fish lips, among other things. Really sophomoric humor that has no actual value. They set up a tag match main event as Titus and, or Striker does, as Titus and Percy Watson will face JTG and Derek Bateman in the main event. Not exactly the best of situations. More tag action actually kicks open the program. This tag action is the Usos from SmackDown, so they've already moved up, against the returning Johnny Curtis and Tyson Kidd. Tyson Kidd again kind of centering on the dungeon sort of deal and being better than most. Usos, 11 years later, 10 or 11 years later, still probably the best WWE wise, one of the two best tag teams other than the New Day in the recent era. I certainly wouldn't compare them to 80s and 90s teams, but at the same time, matches don't mean nearly as much as they used to. Usos with innovative offense, headbutts and the like, a lot of the Islander offense that you see, Rikishi and the Head Shrinkers in previous generations, the Wild Samoans in generations before. Usos really do have that island Polynesian flair, and again, we see a lot of clotheslines and all of that. Actually, for the baby faces, they take a good bit of the run here. And again, attempted roll-ups, doesn't get all he wants on things, and ultimately we see Johnny Curtis come in. Curtis looks to be in probably some of the better shape he's been in. Certainly pumping iron and very aggressive, assertive there. A hot tag to the other Uso, who runs wild on both the heels. Super kicks, still a thing back then for them. Manages to swing the headbutt, and then we see Usos do the big butt in the corner and ultimately manage to get that. Then we see a top rope splash. Usos get the victory over the team of the moment. Then we go back to Raw with the Muppets. Yes, the Muppets are part of Raw. What a stupid, stupid angle this is. I know they want a certain level of connectivity and I guess crossover with kids or whatever, but good gosh, I mean the number of times that wrestling has just been completely not only inappropriate but just goofy for the sake of having something is just there. More interaction between Caitlyn and AJ Lee, who here is known just as AJ, doesn't get a last name for a few more years yet. Then we see Tamina Snuka make her way out. Tamina's still around after all these years, and Caitlyn is her opponent for the day. Short match And Tamina is no better now than she was then all those years ago, at least in my opinion. Still sloppy in the ring, still has to be carried through shorter matches. Just she never picked it up at a real intense level. Strikes their matches is relatively short. Good suplex by Caitlyn. Caitlyn, though, finds herself down on the canvas with a bunch of holds and chin locks and that. Nothing too terribly wonderful. They actually do try and do some submission stuff. Doesn't get all she wants on it. Gets enough, though, to get an advantage, and Caitlyn actually ends up taking the win. That'll show you where Tamina is on the pecking order, that she doesn't even get a win over Caitlyn. But again, at the time, Caitlyn's on SmackDown. Just a weird thing to think of this being 10 years ago, and virtually none of this NXT program is memorable. And yes, I was watching at the time. I've watched pretty consistently, save for a couple of years in the right before 2010, like 2008, 2009. Didn't watch as much then, but came back in 2010 and kind of never really left. Anyway, um, so we go to the square offs with Bateman and JTG versus Titus and Percy Watson. Basic tag match, as it were, there. The ladies do get involved in that as well, so it's turned into a 6-person. Maxine does a hair spin around in a nice lariat. Maxine gets a little better in the ring, but never really has it to be a main star. She hangs out for a couple of years, I believe, but maybe not even that long on the various shows, main roster and otherwise. Deep arm drag by Percy Watson. Watson does have a beautiful dropkick. Almost reminds me of Maven's dropkick in some ways, just in terms of consistency and force in that. But anyway, we see JTG come in. He cuts off Percy Watson. Titus O'Neil, probably the biggest star of this season of the show, still manages to be there and ultimately does what he can. Match goes into more brawling. Titus O'Neil is on the apron the majority of the time. Percy Watson takes the majority of punishment throughout. Snapmare takeovers and other basic maneuvers by Derek Bateman. Bateman is in the ring for much longer than is average here, and ultimately Maxine gets tackled by AJ. They go brawling off, and ultimately the heels succumb to the baby faces as we close. Again, the power bomb style maneuver by one Titus O'Neil is what leads to that win. Anyway, we'll be back with more right after this.